Hello, everybody. I'm Mel Dorr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic. I'm back. Welcome to Thursdays with Kevin and Mel, and I've got the one, the only Kevin Chandler in the house. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Mel. Hey, everyone. Glad you're feeling better, Mel.
Oh my goodness! Saturday I started having I wasn't feeling real good, so Sunday I was having some symptoms. I didn't want to perforate again.
Yeah.
Tinnitus. So I went to the emergency room and they admitted me, and they kept me Sunday night, Monday night. They let me come home Tuesday. But it's like Linda Grindle said. I saw another surgeon today for a second opinion, and she told me to ask the surgeon, like, what can I do about this? Because I'm tired of, working a week and then having to take off time and then working and taking off. It's getting to be old. So the surgeon said, I can take my trip in May, but if I have a flare up again, then I have to have the surgery. So, I've got all my ducks in a row, and I'm formulating where I want to have the surgery, but I'm definitely going to have the surgery.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid to have it. I'm afraid not to have it, but I'm sure I'll pull through it just fine. Yeah. So, anyway, I'm here, and that's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, we're so happy that you're feeling better, and like I said, I think last week, you have a lot of love and a lot of prayers being sent your way, my friend.
Yeah, my arm looks like a battle scar. I mean, it's like
yeah, it's the worst.
Traded, and oh god, it's like. But anyway, but I want to thank everybody for the healing love and energy and all that stuff. So
that's nice. The one great thing about our community is that there's so much love and support, especially when you need it.
Yep, it's great. I've got a few infomercials, but first of all, Kevin, if they want to contact you, how do they do that?
Well, right now I'm
I thought I had a banner up. Oh, I don't see it.
You did have a banner. Maybe it went down with the intro.
It did.
All right. Well, while you pull that up, I do Reiki sessions or reading and Reiki combination, and I do have a couple spots on my Holy Fire Reiki level 1 and 2 class in May for May 10th, and I think the second day is May 31st. But I have all that information. You can book or get more information on my website, kevinslovingvibrations.com, and you can see it in the banner below.
Okay, take the classes. Kevin's an excellent teacher.
Thank you.
This is Oral Cancer Awareness Month. I didn't put my hat on, but it's got a little maroon and almost off-white eggshell color to it. One side's off-white and one side's maroon. So make sure that you go and get an oral exam every year. It's important. The doctors tell me that in people over 40, squamous cell carcinoma, that's a form of cancer that's caused by human papillomavirus, is off the charts. It's almost epidemic because years ago, they didn't have the vaccines that they have now for papillomavirus. So in people over 40, it's really almost epidemic. So everybody get your oral exams. I have openings on my trip to Iceland, October 1. So please, if you're interested, contact me at the number below, 847-590-5411. I do have openings for Peru. So if you're interested in Peru, below, I have openings for readings. So contact the number below. And the other thing is, I want us to give a shout out to my friend Andrew. He does Androniki products. It's Andro, ANDRO-Niki, Niki. they are incredible, and I'm really getting positive feedback for people that have tried them. So if you want to use his products, Andro, Andro dash Nikki, Niki, that's the website. It's great stuff. It's really cool. So I just turned 71, and people say, Mel, you don't look a day over 70.
Oh, I love it.
And how do you do it? Androniki helps out. We're not.
Yeah.
I'm not an employee of Androniki, and I'm not getting paid to do this plug. So anyway, I've got a lot.
Helps, right?
I'm sorry.
You said having good skincare definitely helps with the anti-aging. Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was in the hospital, I couldn't have the Androniki, and when my hands got really dry when I got out, I started using it again. I use the face moisturizer on my hands. It's great stuff. But I use it on my too. So anyway, check it out, you all, and come with on one of my trips. You know, people are asking, you know, what it's like maybe to go to Peru or to Europe or to Iceland, and you know, the Europeans aren't mad at Americans. They're not. You know, they don't like Trump, just like most of us. So it is safe. Anyway, so you don't have to be afraid of that. Shall we get started, Kevin?
Yeah, I did want to just say real quickly, well, since I'm offering the Reiki classes and all that, tomorrow I'm doing a live show, doing like a Q&A about Holy Fire Reiki. If anybody wants to learn more about Reiki or even the Holy Fire style, and I'll be doing a healing demonstration too, which I think a lot of us could use with all of the chaos and, you know, fear and doom, you know. So if anybody would like some good stress relief and rebalancing and healing energy, I'm offering that on my channel at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Everybody check it out.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So much going on. Me and Mel were talking before we went live. Neither of us has caught too much of the news lately, but lots of stuff going on for sure, right?
I do understand there was a mass shooting at Florida State University. So here again, we really need to do something about gun violence in this country. But we have a DIC. You all can sound it out. Dictator-in-chief.
Yeah.
Who, you know, the MAGAs don't do anything about gun violence. But to those victims, please accept our prayers. And, you know, I came up with a hat. I call it the blue hat. You know, the red hat, the MAGAs, the blue hat. And I put, it's going to say, restore American democracy. So to my members, you know, if what I'll do is I'll draw names from my members, and whoever wins, I'll draw names once a month, and my members will get a hat. The hats go to my members only if they want them. They're like, I think I pay like $26 for them or something a piece, so they can get it for cost. It's going to state restore American democracy. But I will be giving away one free one a month to my members, and also when I get to 35,000 subscribers, I'll give away 3 half-hour sessions. So here we are. Anyway, so the mass shootings, you know, somebody put, let's send healing energy to those families. Here's what somebody put up, though. Rita Carlson, and I like this question. I was taking notes on it before we came on. Hello, Mel and Kevin. Do you know the reason why Fleon would break into the National Labor Relations Board and Russia getting the stolen info too? What were they looking for there? Thank you both.
Oh, interesting. Was that I think Rachel had something on about like a whistleblower. Is that what this is?
She did. It was a whistleblower. And I think the whistleblower worked for the National Labor Relations Board. And that's how all this was uncovered. And, you know, Kevin, my guides had shown me a long time ago that there were going to be people from the Trump administration with this whole Starlink thing. And it came out with this whistleblower that the data went to Russia, they think, through Starlink or something.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
But But I'm also seeing whistleblowers coming from Russia to talk about how Starlink was, for entertainment purposes only, sending information to Putin. More is going to come out about that, and it's going to be pretty
And it's more than just this department too. I'm
correct.
sure that there's defense, military stuff that's been already sent over, private information.
Well, I think they were probably looking at those records to go and see what people have been outspoken against Trump, so they can come up with formulation to use that against them. And
Yeah.
I've heard it through the grapevine that he's going to start trying to use the IRS to weaponize the IRS, to use that against people who go against him. So the tyranny just becomes more and more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what I take. That it's information gathering. So Putin can advise Trump on how to use it against people that go against Trump.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I threw some cards on it, and there's definitely more truth being shed. And it feels like it's not even just our information, but even maybe some of our world allies' information coming out overseas. But there's going to be a lot of legal cases over this. You have justice coming in here, so that they'll get down to the truth of the matter. There's going to be huge investigations with Doge and with Elon. In a sense.
I keep seeing Doge or Elon Musk and those around him there, being investigated at some point
Yeah.
as counsel. And I see Elon Musk under indictment, and I see him behind bars.
Okay.
It's going to take a while, or either that or he's deported.
I see him leaving the country.
Okay. Well, a lot is going to be coming out, and a lot's going to be coming out, whistleblowers from the Department of Defense as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Casey Waterhouse says or asks, does he get medical treatment every weekend when he goes to Mar-a-Lago to golf? I don't think he's getting medical treatment. I just think, I read before in his past administration that they were supposed to have briefings every morning, security briefings, and he just kind of blew them off. And, I think he'd rather be spending our taxpayers' money funding his way to Mar-a-Lago so he can be on the golf course and, let his cronies kind of run things. Trump does not keep an eye on them. He just lets them get away with whatever they want.
Yeah. I did a show earlier today, and I read on Trump's health. Now, I don't know if he's getting, you can see photos of him golfing. So he is golfing. I do think he is getting some kind of medical treatments, because we've seen several times now him out in public, and his hand is like all bruised. You could tell it's an IV. But when I read on it today, I feel like there's definitely some heart issues for him. I'm being pulled to something in the bowel or stomach feels out of whack, and
Maybe that's
what?
Maybe that's me.
No, it's Trump. There's something off, I think, with his bowels, intestines. Something doesn't feel quite right there. And
yeah, because he's full of what.
Yeah, well, eat another Big Mac. And we've seen the cognitive decline. I've said for years, there's definitely dementia in it there too. So there's quite a few different. I kind of feel like the medical treatment though is for something going on in the bowels.
I don't know. I mean, I won't let them put IVs in my hand because they got to put it in my arm.
Yeah.
But you can get bruised like that from IVs. It could be for dehydration or things like that. Sometimes if they infiltrate a vein for a blood test, it'll rupture. I don't know. But he's clearly going there for fun, to play golf. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
But he reminds me kind of like that story of Marie Antoinette when they said, people are starving, and she said, let them eat cake. That's kind of what Trump and Fleon are doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cake.
The economy. Well, right. I mean, look what's going on right now with his, trade wars and them, wanting to hurt, cutting all of the programs and cutting federal agencies. And so it's all like, screw the poor people. Meanwhile, we'll give tax breaks to the rich, which I do hear there's some Republicans actually revisiting that plan too, about actually doing tax cuts.
Well, I think a lot more Republicans are going to speak up against him because they want to stay in office and they're not looking too well with their constituents right now.
Mm-hmm.
I did see that Meloni, I think she's a president or
Minister of Italy,
Prime Minister of Italy,
mm-hmm.
Was at the White House talking to Trump, and we've struck a deal, on the tariffs. Okay. Well, Meloni, if you read what she says, make the West great again. I don't like her because she is the female version of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
She's like, make the West great again. So she's really an Italian MAGA. But as it goes in Italy, I don't think she's going to stay in office long. The next elections, I see her voted out.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think Trump is trying to bully countries into agreeing to the tariffs. And I think behind the scenes, he's saying, I'll cut the tariffs if you don't help Ukraine. There's a lot of things behind.
Oh, yeah. Using leverage for it to make some kind of deal. Yeah, for sure.
But, I think Great Britain is going to negotiate with them and probably Italy. But I don't think the rest of the European Union is going to follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Meloni's going to try something with Italy and the European Union, but she won't succeed. I don't know if she'll try to pull out, but it won't work. The Italians will be up in arms about it. But I see a lot of the EU countries, European Union countries, saying, no, we're not going to kowtow to his tariffs. China's not going to get in. I mean, they might at some point strike a deal, but Trump will be like, you look what I did. I forced them into a deal, but it's going to still backfire, Kevin. I see it backfiring. And I see
I agree.
A lot of European countries, China, even India, helping Ukraine.
Yeah.
Maybe China.
And I said too, I felt like he was going to flip on a lot of these tariffs, and he's already put a pause on it. I mean, he's going crazy with China right now. But they're saying all of these countries are coming to make a deal. Well, I'd like to see, I mean, what North Korea, or not North Korea, was it Japan or one of the Asian countries were coming over, but it's not like all these people are lining up. It's just to bully and to
it's smoke and mirrors,
leverage. Yeah.
Look, they're all lining up to make a deal. No, they're all lining up to give you the middle finger to tell you, if you do this to us, we're going to do it in spades back to you. That's why they're not all lining up to make a deal, When do you know?
And they won't.
When do you know Titolini is lying?
When he breathes.
He opens his mouth. Yeah. But, the other thing he's doing with these tariffs is it's manipulation of the stock market. Because when the market, has those huge dips, almost crash, if you will.
Millionaires and rich go in and buy low and then make a boatload of money. And we're going to actually see a lot of investigating into that.
That's right. That's exactly what they're doing. And then, I'm going to put the tariffs off, and then the prices go high. It's really insider trading. I mean, he told publicly, buy stock. Well, hello.
Yeah. Well, and you can actually see before he reversed it, that the stock market was starting to gain. There was a big increase like 15 minutes before he announced it. So that there were inside people knowing, okay, he's going to reverse it now. Let's buy.
Absolutely. And, he made a ton of money on that. Don't kid yourself.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. Let's see. Casey Waterhouse. Musk seems quieter lately. Why? He'll speak up again.
He's definitely laying low right now, and he's kind of been out of the spotlight since all of that money he pumped into that Wisconsin race didn't really bear anything for him. And I do feel like there is a lot of fighting between him and Trump's administration. We have said we both feel like there's going to be a big public separation. The bromance is ending, so kind of feels like it's on that. And plus, he's also worried about his. He's losing a lot of money, and Tesla stocks are going way down.
Oh, that's going to go bust. I'll tell you what else is
Mhm.
going to have problems too is X. And I see a lot more social media platforms coming, like Sky Blue. Is it Sky Blue? I
Mhm.
think it's a new one. Um, that are really going to give things like X a run for its money.
Yeah.
I see him losing a huge, huge, huge part of, I don't want to say his empire, but of his wealth.
Hmm.
That happened to a better guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll have enough money stashed to live comfortably. But I do want to talk about Starlink because that's frightening. But I see once Trump and Shady are gone, that the government and a lot of governments are going to cancel the contracts with Starlink. They're already doing it in the European Union because there's going to be more coming out that a lot more of our from the Department of Defense, and a lot of our secrets, even voting stuff, was transmitted to
Oh
countries
yeah.
like Russia through Starlink, and I see Starlink being taken down.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to happen within the next year and a half to 2 years. In fact, I see a special prosecutor appointed.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
What do you think is going to happen with Pam Bondi? I know what I see coming for her.
Um, well, I don't know if I kind of feel like the whole Trump administration is going to be going down. Um, Trump's going to drag everybody with them. I don't know if I feel like there's jail for her, but I almost feel like she'll lose her law license.
I see her under indictment, and I got a
Mhm.
feeling, I don't know, I keep seeing bars.
Okay.
This is going to be like a Trump thing where she's indicted and she's convicted. Uh,
Hmm.
she out and out lied when they're giving the middle finger to the Supreme Court, and they're going to continue to do that. So I see impeachment like for high crimes and misdemeanors. I don't know if you can impeach attorney general, but I see Trump impeached again,
Hmm.
Vance impeached, and I had a feeling that there's going to be something like that with Bondi as well, and Mike
Yeah.
Johnson. Um, Pam Bondi, when they asked her about, I forget the guy's name, they said mistakenly deported. He wasn't mistakenly deported. They knew exactly what they were
Oh
doing.
yeah, for sure.
And, the court said he needs to come home immediately. And they asked her about it. And she said, well, the president of El Salvador won't release him.
Yeah, it's because Trump is paying them to keep them.
Well,
Hmm.
she didn't say that part, but then it
Yeah,
came
of course.
out that Trump was paying him because the
Mhm.
vice president of El Salvador came out and said, yeah, because Trump is paying them. And
Mhm.
my feeling is they don't want that guy released because he will be released at some point, but they don't want him to open his mouth about conditions and about what's going on in that concentration camp in El Salvador.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I see him coming home. Do you?
I read on it today. I got him coming home, his family, and all of that. But I do feel like I don't know if it's going to happen like in the near future. It may be a little while, so maybe like over the summer.
The courts are mad. Contempt,
Yeah.
they're going to hold her in contempt as well. I see contempt of court for Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll tell you another one who's going to be in deep trouble is Cash Patel.
Mm. Yeah.
They're-
The FBI.
yes, they're all in
Yeah.
court.
I threw some cards on Pat Bondi, and she's going to have a tower moment. Justice will come. Um, there's restrictions and endings. Like I said, I'm not intuitively picking up jail, but not to say that it couldn't happen. But um, I think she'll be disbarred at least. And
Well,
it's like her whole career. Trump is going to take everybody down with him. So I'm not really worried about his administration.
he'll be like Hitler when Hitler went down. He wanted to take everybody with him. The same.
Hmm.
Uh, I've been watching a lot lately about the rise and fall of the Third Reich, and I've studied the Holocaust a lot in the
Yeah.
past. Um, and what was going on when Hitler was first appointed as chancellor. He was never really elected. Then he declared martial law. But, at first, the German people didn't like the whole anti-Semitic thing. But by degree, Hitler manipulated. I would
Yeah.
think with propaganda minister, was it Goebbels or I forget who the propaganda minister was. And then they started the mass deportations.
Yeah, well, that's essentially what they're doing. They're getting sent down to death concentration camps. And I remember telling you when right before his administration came in, I was starting to see a lot of really devastating, cruel, inhumane treatment for those that they're deporting, and that's exactly what's happening.
Well, it's a parallel of exactly,
Mhm.
but a huge parallel of what was going on, in Nazi Germany. Uh,
Mhm.
it's frightening.
Yeah.
Hitler put a lot of the death camps in Poland um, because he could hide what he was doing. And it's the same thing like you just said. He's paying the president of El Salvador,
Mhm.
and so he
Well,
can.
now he's threatening to send American citizens down there and deporting them. That's not gonna happen. I see him kind of escalating those threats, but it's not gonna happen.
Not without due process. You can't.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
they're deporting people without any due process.
I know that, but the court
Yeah.
said you can't do that. The Supreme
Yeah.
Court says it has to go in front of a judge. Hopefully, not one appointed by Trump.
Mhm.
But you know, Hitler put the death camps in Poland. A lot of those concentration camps, they were all over Germany, but the ones in Poland, so nobody would know what was going on. Well, the
Yeah.
exact same thing here. He's sending these
Mhm.
people to El Salvador, and it's starting to leak out what the conditions are like. But I see a lot of whistleblowers from the El Salvadorian government coming forward and defecting to other countries in South America and Europe, and they're going to tell the whole story about what's
Mhm.
going on down there. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's another reason why they don't want to release those people that they deported illegally, is because they don't want the story breaking about the truth of what's going on
Yeah.
in that prison down there.
Well, what do you think? I think a great idea would be, um, after Trump's whenever he's out, let's start rounding up all of him and his administration and sending the convicted felons down to El Salvador.
No,
As a
I don't like the El
permanent.
Salvador idea. I think it should be Thule, Greenland,
Yeah.
and I would hope they would say, "Here's the little lumber. Build your own things to keep warm." I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not mean spirited. That was mean, but I think El Salvador is too good for them. I think it should be somewhere like, we're going to take over Greenland. Okay, well, let's just see how that works out, Donald.
Right.
Um, anyway, but I do see deportations coming. I think you're right about Fleon. Somebody called him Fleon. That
Yeah, I love it.
he'd probably run off somewhere. But anyway, all
Yeah,
righty.
that's the vibe that I always get from Elon. Like I see him terrified and fleeing for his life.
Okay, all
Mhm.
right. I got
And we're
cool.
going to continue to see. I mean, we're already seeing all of these protests this weekend. We can read on that if you want, see what the energy is
You
about
know,
that. But
my
town hall,
my guy.
AOC and Bernie going out into red states. Sorry, but like the energy is just going to continue to build, and we're not going to stand or tolerate. Um,
My guide showed
mm,
me that there's going to be many, many more protests,
oh yeah.
huge protests. Trump and his cronies might try to incite some violence, but that won't work. So I can maybe think about martial law. And
Hmm.
I think that people that are protesting, what he's going to do, he's a bully. It's a show of force. Well, we'll start arresting these protesters because, especially if they have green cards, they're not citizen because, it's a terrorist threat and this and that. Um, exactly, that's what Rubio's going to say, right? We'll try to revoke their green cards. He'll use it as a threat that anybody who protests, I will deport you. you run a chance of being deported. It's not going to work.
Mhm.
These protests are going to get more and more. And
Yeah.
I mean, almost, I can see at some point even more than every weekend. And there's
Yeah.
just going to be multitudes of people.
Well, and we've said too, it feels like this pressure and this anger continues to boil, and I would not be surprised if Trump tries to declare some kind of martial law or something over it. Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking. But I
If
think
he's taking a step too far, though, because I see him taking a step too far where even a lot in his own party start to, okay, we can't be associated with this. We have to step back from the crazy. I mean,
well,
it's going to happen.
look at what just happened. 9 Supreme Court justices,
Mhm. Yeah.
Clarence Thomas included, which really fried my head, uh, decided against him.
Yeah.
So, all right. Dino or Dino? Dino, 1981. Oops, my computer's sliding here. I'm about to have a lap full of laptop.
Mm.
Hello, Mel and Kevin. Glad you're doing better. Thank you. What will happen to Trump's kids after he is gone? Will they be gone from our lives? Never want to hear a word about that family ever again. That makes 2 of us. That
Yeah,
makes
right.
us.
Well, and you're not even seeing his family out right now.
No.
You aren't seeing his sons. Ivanka and Jared's been quiet even when he was running. I mean, they've done a couple. Like I think they were all there for his inauguration, but they're all quiet now. No, I feel like everything associated with Donald Trump will go down the toilet. I don't see huge public. They are trying to groom Barron to be like his father's replacement, but he'll never be president.
I don't see another Trump becoming president unless they're a Democrat.
No, even as a Democrat, I don't see it.
No,
Their whole family legacy is going to go down the toilet.
I see a very, very fiery person coming in that's going
Mm.
to run on the Democratic platform. I mean, totally fiery.
Mhm.
And that's no slam to Kamala. I mean, but somebody who's really
Yeah.
fiery.
Well, you're already starting to see that too. I mean, look at Cory Booker
Yeah.
going on the Senate floor for so long. AOC and Bernie are kicking ass. Yeah,
Guys,
Jasmine Crockett. I mean, the party's definitely going towards this fiery counter messaging. And
somebody,
kind of attacking Trump. Yeah.
somebody on the order of Jasmine Crockett,
Hmm.
that fiery.
Yeah.
I like her. She's a spitfire.
Yeah, we got some good ones. And you know what? There's going to be some changes in the party's leadership, but I think it's going to very much be for the better because we can't just allow you know we have to fight back. There's so much at stake, especially this time. He's even more on what's the word?
Breaking the law even more. And
Yeah.
I think the Supreme Court's realizing when we gave him that immunity, especially when Kavanaugh, when the justices said they didn't even listen to that can you and about when they gave him well, if it was presidential, he's immune, but if it was personal, he wasn't.
Hmm.
And they said, well, we have to think about this for the sake of future presidents. They didn't really hear the merits of that case, and they're
Hmm.
realizing. My feeling is all of them, well, maybe with the exception of Clarence Thomas, um, are Leo. They're realizing that they opened Pandora's box with that whole immunity thing.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing, my guides are showing me, is that there's going to be something else coming into the fray where, about presidential immunity in the not so distant future, within the next year and a half, and it'll go to the Supreme Court. And my feeling is they'll overturn that ruling and say,
Hmm.
wait a minute, the president does not have immunity from everything. And yes, he or she can be held responsible for high crimes and misdemeanors.
I read on that earlier today and got the same thing.
I didn't hear it, but that's what
Hmm.
my light
Yep.
bulb just went on.
I got that it would be reversed or there would be more guidance, like structure in with it, but definitely kind of going back on it.
Okay. Linda McKee says, are protesters going to get dragged away by ICE during marches to El Salvador? My feeling is they'll get names of protesters and go knock on their door if they have green cards and try to revoke their green cards and deport them. But it's not going to stop people. They're gonna be like, you can't deport all of us. We'll
Yeah.
fight.
I don't see them deporting U.S. citizens to El Salvador. They're going to threaten it, but I don't see them doing it. But I agree, they will definitely get information and have threats and all of that.
Well, and I think that's just it, the bullying. If you
Hmm.
dare march against us, even if you're American citizen, we will find something. And if you're convicted, then we'll put you in jail in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Well, the jail's not big enough there, big enough to hold everybody, unless
Well, Trump was already joking that they're going to have to send more money to build more prisons.
exactly what I was just going to say.
Hmm.
He's cutting a deal or trying to. He wasn't joking with the
Hmm.
powers that be down there to build more prisons. And ooh, that's not going to look good either.
Yeah.
Um, that's going to come out more and more.
Mhm.
Um, right now, the president of El Salvador, a lot of people like him in South America, but he's showing his true colors and really is becoming a dictator. And, there's going to be a lot coming out about him.
Yeah,
And it's going to take a long while, but I see him um, overthrown
hmm, yeah,
because of the violation of human rights.
I agree.
Okay. Spirit animal on 1212. Hey, spirit
Mhm.
animal. Will Abrego Garcia be brought back to us even though he had a protection order filed against him by his wife for domestic violence? Domestic violence alone usually cancels a visa. But I think he had a green card. I don't think he had
Yeah.
a visa. I don't, but you have to look at the reasons that they deported him. They said it was a
Mhm.
mistake. Um, and even if he had a complaint, a protection order filed against him, um, I don't know if that's reason to revoke a green card. I'm not a lawyer,
Yeah,
but I do see him being brought back.
yeah, I agree. It'll be a bit of a fight getting him back, but he'll come back to his family.
Well, they're going to start pulling everything. Oh, he did this,
Mhm.
he did that, and blah, blah, blah. But excuse me, you've already said that they pretty much admitted to it was a mistake, or we don't know what happened or whatever,
Mhm.
right? I mean, didn't they say it was a mix up or it was a mistake? I forget exactly their verbiage when he got deported. I forget. They admitted to it, right, Kevin?
A minute to what? I'm sorry.
That they made a mistake in deporting him.
Well, yeah, because they're saying he's part of this criminal gang and that he had charges brought up against him before, and it's not the case.
That's not the case. So that's
Yeah.
my whole point.
Mhm.
That they're going to try
He
other
wasn't
stuff.
convicted of a crime.
And he did that, but wait a minute. You deported him without due process, and you deported him under false charges. You
Mhm. Well,
so
it's the same thing for everybody else that they're deporting. They're not giving due process to anybody,
no.
and that's why they came back. And I do feel some will be coming back, but I do feel like, unfortunately, I don't think that everybody's going to be coming back that was deported to that prison.
Well, once Trump is gone, yes, but
Mm.
then this president down there will want to pay money to have him return. But I really think Abrego Garcia, and I think probably uh, two or three others will really be the battle cry to unite people to say we want these illegal deportations stopped.
Yeah.
These people get due process, and we're in a constitutional crisis. I think
Mhm. Yeah,
when
absolutely.
the court tells the administration to do something and they don't do it. Um, so But I see that Abrego Garcia, his name is going to be a battle cry to really coalesce people to say, we've had it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
Barbie Pomala says DeSantis and his wife have gotten caught with her Hope Foundation. Ooh, what
Mhm.
will be, uh, what is next? Will the police get them? Wow.
I hadn't heard that coming out, but I mean, I've definitely said that before, that his wife was taking money, and I thought a huge scandal coming out before, like just before his term was up. So it may take a while, but I do see some trouble for both of them.
I hear the word fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And my guy's putting fraud in my head. So, but I see that going toward her, the fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the question is, does Satan know about it? But they're going to go after her for fraud. That I pick up.
Interesting. There might be some jail time here too. It's not going to be just her. It's a group of them that have worked with this for the fraud. More information coming out, and then you have justice, and then the Four of Swords, which can be a jail card. It's like a retreat.
A retreat?
And then, yeah.
Oh, you mean like a spa retreat?
Mm-hmm.
Or you mean like the orange sliders kind?
Yeah. Well, she may have a lot of time to really think about some of her decisions.
There you go. Okay. T. Lynn, well, El Salvador face charges for the mess of disappeared people. Makes no sense they could get away unscathed by International Court on Human Rights basis. Oh, I think the international courts are going to issue a warrant for the president of El Salvador because of violation of human rights.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, let's see what we got here.
I think it's even more than that, though, too. It feels like there's like trafficking. There's a lot associated with it. There's
so much crap that's going to come out about, it frightens me that the president down there was supposed to clean up corruption and, get rid of gang members and all of that. I guess you couldn't go away with your doors open. But then who ends up being corrupt? Who ends up being the criminals? The people in the government down there.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that's going on here. Trump ran on Drain the Swamp, and he's going to do that by exposing all of his corruption. Like I said, and there'll be accountability and change because of it. And I see the same thing for El Salvador too.
Swamps are a necessary part of the ecology. So I think should call it drain the cesspool, because he is the cesspool.
Yeah.
But I see you're right, the same thing in El Salvador. There's going to be a lot coming out about the corruption. And so the question is then who really are the criminals? And it's the government down there, in my opinion.
Can I ask, what are you picking up? I have a question for you first, and we can read on Harris. But what do you pick up about the protests this weekend? Anything people need to be concerned about, or does it feel like it's going to be a big deal?
I think it's going to be a huge deal. I see a lot of protests this weekend and a lot of weekends coming. It's kind of like a snow. Well, it's kind of like an avalanche. An avalanche kind of starts small, and this whole avalanche happens. And there's going to be this avalanche of protest, and it's going to ultimately be an avalanche that will bury Trump and his cronies.
Yeah, I agree. I think people have had it. People are standing up for what they believe in. Women coming out in droves, speaking their truth. But every time I read on the protests, I do feel, and I think that it's just a collective energy, I do have some caution. So I would just say, everybody make sure if you're going to protest, follow your intuition and be very aware of your surroundings. Because I do see at some point, escalating where it's not so peaceful. There's some civil unrest and even attackings.
And that's my advice. If you're going to protest, keep it peaceful.
Yeah.
Because I intuit, my guides show me that Trump, just like they did with Black Lives Matter, they would bring in agitators to try to incite violence. And when they did that with Black Lives Matter, they blamed it on Antifa. And this time they'll probably blame it on DEI or whatever. So I think they're going to the Trump people are going to try to bring in agitators to start violence. So then they'll blame it on the protesters. But it won't work. There will be some violence, yes, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
my advice is, if you're going to protest, and that's your constitutional right,
Yeah.
keep it peaceful.
Absolutely, yeah. And our huge protests a couple weeks ago, I think they were saying over 5 million people were out protesting. Um, for the most part, I heard of one instance where there was a MAGA with a assault rifle, but not that there was a shooting or anything. But for the most part, it was peaceful. But I do feel energy kind of building to a tipping point.
Well, people are still going to protest because they're
Yeah,
angry.
and they should.
Oh, they should. That's the
Mhm.
constitutional right. 5 million people, that's nothing compared to what my guides are showing me, that the people that are going to be protesting. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking millions and millions
Mhm.
and millions.
I agree. But
Um,
I think it's important too. I mean, everybody, follow your intuition with it, of course. And if you're able to, for some, they may not be able to, and you can organize in different ways. But
I mean,
what was my point?
when's the last time that you saw senior citizen protesting in front of Social Security offices?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a child of the late 60s, early 70s, so protest was a way of life for us.
Yeah.
We brought about a lot of good changes, and these protests will too. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, though, too, is you have the courts being acting as somewhat as a guardrail, but I see like the major force behind keeping Trump and his administration in check is us all going to the streets and demanding that he follow the law.
I keep asking my guides, and I asked Lincoln. I know it sounds like I'm schizophrenic, but I kind of feel Lincoln, his spirit,
Hmm.
very strong, because I felt it when I went to Lincoln's tomb. And I keep like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And even if I start doubting, it came through my guides and through Lincoln. Um, the courts will save our democracy, not the Department of Justice, but the courts.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think us demanding justice too.
And when I hear Steve Bannon, yes, you're right. In the
Hmm.
protest, when I heard Steve Bannon saying Donald Trump will be, on the White House steps and elected president in 2028, I'm thinking,
No way.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's another one that I see going to jail again.
Who?
Steve Bannon.
Oh, Bannon. Yeah.
Trump pardoned him, but I see him in federal trouble again. And I see the states. There's going to be 2 or 3 states that are going to go after him, and he'll
Mhm.
be convicted in the states. And then the president has no pardon. As I don't think has any power to pardon somebody who's convicted in a state, in one of the
Mm.
states. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Do you
Daryl,
feel like
go
with
ahead.
the states going after Trump too, do you feel like that may be where some of this investigation into insider trading comes from?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because I see Trump, my light bulb just went on, my flash cube. I see Trump under indictment uh, in certain states for insider trading. Or
Okay.
so I see him having indictments in the states, at least 3 states or 4. Uh,
Mm.
and that whole, there's nothing in the law that says you can't indict a sitting president. That is that is just it's not a law. It's just a procedure that they followed for years. And I see that changing because I see Trump, before he leaves office, indicted in 2 or 3 states. Now, that
Okay.
could be the impeachment because that's high
Hmm.
the misdemeanors. But there's no law that says you can't indict a sitting president. It's not a
Yeah.
law. So,
Mm.
and if they try to take that to the Supreme Court's going to say, wait a minute, it's not a law. So we don't really, there's nothing for us to hear.
Yeah,
And
I
that
agree.
might be where that whole presidential immunity thing is turned around.
Mm. Well, what do you think too? Because I mean, it very well could be from New York State. I mean, that's where Wall Street is, stock market. But now, I mean, we know Trump goes after all of his enemies. He's going after Tisha James now. I felt like she was going to get through it. I mean, I did feel like there was some challenges. I think they're bringing up on mortgage fraud or something along the lines of that, but I didn't see a conviction there.
I don't either. And that's what
Mhm,
he's going to do is try to weaponize in the DOJ to go
mhm,
against people that go against him. But they're going to be just like in the McCarthy era. In the beginning, people were a little bit, they were there were a few brave souls, and they kind of got crucified.
mhm,
But then there were a few more brave souls that spoke up and said, "Wait a minute here, and we're not going to tolerate this." And McCarthy ended up with his head hung in shame, and
yeah,
that's exactly what's going to happen here. He's going to go out and
absolutely.
speak up against him, but there's going to be so many people, brave souls, that'll speak up. That'll be like, wait a minute, you're going to come after us too, and
Mhm,
it's going to force these politicians into coming out from under the rock, coming out of the fear, and saying, wait a minute, we need to take action here. Exactly what happened in the McCarthy era is what's going to happen to Trump. You mark my words.
I agree 100%.
Okay, Daryl says, will Harris run for governor in California and will she win? That's a good question, actually.
I'm gonna throw on it, but I do feel like I I'm feeling like she hasn't decided what she's doing yet. If she runs for governor in California, I do believe she'll win, but I'm not sure if she's 100% committed to running for governor yet.
If she runs, she'll win, but
Mhm,
I see her with bigger fish to fry.
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a couple of cards on it. I'm like I said, if she wants it, it's hers. And I think a lot of the Democrats would back out too. I think they're actually kind of mad that she hasn't decided yet.
She's an attorney, correct?
Yes.
You know, I've just got a hit. Either she could be Secretary of Defense or Attorney General. I see her, and I know she was Vice President before, so she can't.
Mhm.
Well, she could still be Vice President, but I see her in another really high level federal government position, and I don't know if it's Secretary of State or um, Attorney General, but huge.
Mhm. Well, and I don't think actually her running for 2028 is out of the question either.
That's a good point.
Mhm,
Or being on the ticket with somebody as a vice president again.
mhm. If she runs, she'll win. Um, but I kind of agree. She's going to stand in her truth and power and justice coming through. So it even could be like Attorney General. I think she'd be great at that.
I think she's being groomed for bigger things.
Yeah, I agree. And but I see her making a difference now too. We haven't heard a lot from her. She's been um, kind of behind the scenes. I think you know
I think a
going
lot.
through it all. But I do see her coming out, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's doing rallies, kind of going on with this progressive movement with the Democratic Party either.
I think a lot of Dems behind the scenes are, working on strategies, but you
Mhm.
know, a lot more fiery ones coming to the surface too.
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders, boy, he's like, boom. Uh, and Jasmine Crockett's like, whom? I mean, a lot more politicians. I won't say younger blood. I'm just saying that they're going to be proactive instead of reactive, and they're going to start pulling Republicans. Uh, the way the Republicans, they, you know, the Republicans are the first ones to scream injustice, but yet they're the first ones to do it.
yeah.
The double-edged sword. But I see people, Democrats coming out that are going to be progressive, but really vocal, and are
Mhm.
going to be preemptive, proactive, and are going to hit the Republicans with some of the Republican same tricks, and the Republicans aren't going to like it. Too
Yeah.
bad.
Well, and I think a lot of the anti-establishment Republicans, I mean, that's why Donald Trump has such a big following, is because people are tired of, they don't feel like the government's doing anything to help them or benefit their lives. But so what they really want is change. And to be honest with you, in 2016, I think if Bernie would have gotten the nomination over Hillary Clinton, I think he would have gotten a lot of the Trump voters because that's what a lot of people want, that change. So you're going to start to see the Democrats kind of tap into that energy.
Bingo. You know,
Mhm.
I think one thing that we learned though from the protests in the late 60s and early 70s is sometimes people want to change for the sake of change. And I think
Mhm.
you just hit on something huge with this whole thing with Trump. People want to change, but you got to be
Mhm.
careful with that
Yeah.
because, you know, they want to change and he's giving them change. Unfortunately, it's wrecking the economy. It's taking away their rights. It's taking away our jobs.
Mhm.
It's robbing us. It's robbing our pocketbooks. So you got to be careful when you vote just for the sake of change. You know,
Mhm.
it's biting. It's biting everybody in the butt
Yeah.
that voted for him because they want to change.
Yeah. And but you know, unfortunately, and I think that this is, you know, why we're all kind of going through this heaviness is, you know, change isn't always comfortable, and it's not always, doesn't always feel safe or stable, but it can wake people up. And you know, fortunately, sometimes people have to learn the hard way before they get that wake up call that they need too. So I mean, collectively, we're all kind of going through that right now. But
Well,
in the end, it will put those guardrails even stronger for our government and constitution. Um, so actively, he's draining the swamp, and that's what he'll be doing when he's gone, because there won't be anybody like him ever again to run for president.
I think that, you know, once Trump and Shady and that whole regime is gone, we will have change.
Hmm.
But change, positive change. That's
Yeah.
the key. Positive change. Now, what's positive for you might be negative for somebody else, but change to, you know, restore our rights, to
Hmm.
make sure that you know, our underprivileged are helped, to have a fair tax structure, to stop price gouging, you know, all of the above. Um,
Hmm.
you know, what's going on in Canada right now with what's his name? The
Oh, Carney.
Carney, I really like him.
Mhm.
He's gonna win in Canada, by the way. And here's to Canada. Uh,
Well,
Carney's gonna win. Polly Parrott, I call the guy running against him the the MAGA Maple or the Maple MAGA, whatever. Uh,
mm.
Polly Parrott. eh. um, people
I
in
think he had a chance of winning before Trump got in and started all the craziness, trade wars, and talking about taking over Canada and all of that. I think it's pissed a lot of Canadians off, and as a result, um, I think Carney will win too.
well, people in Canada have opened their eyes about Polly Parrott.
Hmm.
You know, the rest of the world, I think, is opening their eyes about, you know, the Trumpian like
Hmm.
dictators. Look what happened in Germany. A conservative won, but it wasn't Alice. I think her name is Vidal or Vidal, whatever her name is. And
Hmm.
she's
Was
like,
more of a moderate conservative.
right,
It
she's
wasn't part of the far
Nazi,
wing.
and
Hmm.
people didn't want it. So my feeling is, you know, people see what Trump is doing here in the rest of the world, and they're like, we don't want that to happen in our countries.
Yeah.
You know, Canada is now what we were like, you know, it seems like an eternity ago.
Mm.
But I see us returning to that kind of democracy again.
Yeah. It's going to take a while for the world to regain trust and want to work with us, though.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
he's done irreparable damage because the rest of the world's going to say, why would we work with you? Because you can turn around and get another rogue president to do the same thing that he did to us. And that's where treaties come into play. I see legislation being passed so a president just can't sign some kingly decree,
Mhm.
then it becomes done. You know, it has to go.
Yeah. It'll take some time. It will take some time, but we will kind of you know, lead the charge again, if you will.
Well, I
But yeah,
see.
but in the meantime, too, you're having all of our trade partners and allies looking to somebody else. Who
Right,
else could take over, you know, the leadership position that the
right.
U.S. has? Where are they going to go to China? That's not going to help us.
Well, that's exactly what's happening, you
Mhm.
know. But I still see legislation coming to say that a president just can't, sign a kingly decree,
Mhm.
break a treaty, or do the stuff like with these tariffs and things like that. It's going to have to go through Congress. That's what I see coming.
I agree.
And I see legislation being passed so that it can't be these super majorities anymore. That it has to be more fair and into the unfair gerrymandering,
Mhm.
and legislation coming where rich folks like Fleon can no longer buy elections.
I agree. Was that Citizens United being overturned, getting big businesses and billionaires out of politics? Yeah.
That's exactly what'll happen.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, we got time for just two more. KB says protest in front of JVD Vance's house on to Saturday. I guess that's a statement, huh?
I guess it's a statement. I love it though.
Okay. Laurie Johnson gave us a super sticker of $5.
Thank you,
Artemis
babe.
RN gave us a super sticker. Thank you.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if we have any more to answer. I don't see any more. I haven't been reading the comments. I've been looking at the ones that are stars.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've been kind of going back and forth.
all righty.
Well,
So
we've been on for an hour, so
here's another good one. We'll answer this one and then we'll cap it off. How's that?
yeah.
Lightning bug lover. I like lightning bugs too. They're really cool. What is the future of the Supreme Court? And then it says, how can it?
Mm.
Somebody
Well,
says,
I do see.
yep. Somebody says, Mel, I think we're trying to say Maple Leaf MAGA. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
With the Supreme Court, I really see. I see Amy Coney Barrett, and I said it when she got in too. Really being up for like this part of history and really standing up against Trump. Now, I think that it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag with things that they, push aside or allow Trump to continue with, but like the constitutional things and really like the fairness and justice for those kind of issues, I do see them not going his way. So, but I do still see some shakeups in the Supreme Court. What do you feel about Roberts? Because I almost feel like, and I don't know if this is, this may be after Trump's done. He might be in place till then, but I almost see him leaving pretty quickly afterwards.
I don't think any of them are going to leave until after Trump is out because they
Mhm.
know what'll happen. And they,
Yeah.
with the exception of Clarence Thomas, but that's, um, once Trump and Shady Vance are gone, I still see the court, a court coming in, and I'm not being Pollyanna about this. I see a court coming in that's not going to let their political or personal views stand in the way of their decisions they make,
Mhm.
and they'll make decisions based on the merits of the case and based on
Yeah.
the Constitution, and that's exactly what justices should do.
Yeah.
That
Well, it wasn't so political before. I mean, sure, maybe you had some that were more conservative, more liberal, but um, it wasn't going along with, there were plenty of times Republican uh, Supreme Courts didn't necessarily go with the conservative side if they didn't feel like that was right for the country or, lawful.
right. I can't. Trying to think of the word that's not coming to my mind. Not that they're indifferent, but impartial. That there will be
Yeah.
a court coming where there will be many impartial justices, and I see 13 justices.
You see them putting term limits in at some point too?
Do I see what?
Term limits for the Supreme Court at some point?
Yes, I've always seen that. My guides have shown me that. Yes, and they should have term limits,
Yeah.
and that would stop a lot of what's going on now. And that I also see coming where, and they probably have to change the Constitution, that they can't hold, the nomination like Mitch McConnell did for 10 months because it's an election year,
Right.
and that a president can only appoint so many justices to the court during one term. I don't know how that'll work out, but that's how I see it playing out.
I agree.
Okay. Yes, I was there. It was a tongue twister. Thank you, Joe and Sherry. I was trying to say maple leaf. Okay. Here's one more, then we're done. I like this. This is the comment. J Cat Lady. Hey, Cat Lady. They should be able to go in and take the president out if he starts acting like a king. That's a good point, because I see that No Kings Act coming up again. It'll be called something else, and I see that signed into law. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah. Well, now what was the No Kings Act? Was that him taking? He's pretty much running the Congress now too, and just doing whatever he wants. And was that to stop that, or the separation of the branches?
Right. Yeah. All right. One more. I just it's like just one more. It's like it's like eating a potato chip. I'll just have one more. All right. Nancy says, this is a good one. Will California create trade as a state to get around the tariffs? I hear yes. It'll get tied up in court, but I hear yes, they're going to.
Yeah. Well, I think Newsom just filed a lawsuit against Trump and saying that his tariffs aren't legal, and I agree with that. But I do kind of agree with you. It feels like it's caught up in lawsuits for a while.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I see. Here, Joyce says tariffs are supposed to go through Congress now, but Trump doesn't follow the rules. Well, that's going to go to court, and I see where the courts are going to say you have to follow the law. It has to go through Congress.
Well, I see some of the Congress people actually standing up to Trump too, because I mean the way that he's taking things, it's just too far. So there needs to be that check, and they realize people are pissed off. I mean, they can't even do town halls right now because people are angry and furious, and they should be.
And you know what's going to happen? People are going to want town halls, and if the Republicans or the MAGAs refuse to do it, they're going to have a town hall. They're going to have a town hall anyway in absentia, and they're just going to go BS, BS crazy on those MAGAs that were elected and just refuse to show up. And that's certainly going to shift the voting toward more independent and to Dems.
Well, and I think even Democrats may show up for town halls in red districts too. I think they've started to do that too.
Well, that's exactly what's going to happen, because the Republicans won't, and then the Democrats will show up, and and then they're not going to go crazy on the Dem that shows up, but they're going to ask questions like, "But okay, you're a Democrat, but why haven't you been more vocal? Why have you allowed this to happen?" And the response will be, "I'm at the town hall meeting right now."
Yeah.
So anyway. All right, Kevin, next week on your show. And
I think so. I have a root canal next week. So as long as I'm feeling up to it, and well, I feel like you'll be up to it next week, but I think we'll probably be fine.
All right. And meanwhile, real quick, what do you have going on during the week?
Well, I'm not sure when I'll do a live show next week. I did just do one today. So if I'm feeling up to it, probably later on in the week. I do have, and I said at the beginning of the show, a Reiki question and answers and healing demonstration on my channel tomorrow at 3. So if anybody feels like they need to kind of rise above all the yucky politics and bring in some loving, balancing energy, please feel free to stop by for that. Looking forward to that.
And I've got tomorrow at 3:00 Central, Linda Grindle. It's pre-recorded.
Oh, nice.
She's going to be on Friday. Oh, that is Friday. Tomorrow night. The Other Side of the Coin, and it's a new series we started, and we're going to talk about Wicca. With the Cool Crone's going to talk about it. Then Monday I'll be on Linda's show. Tuesday with Arthur. Next Thursday with you. It was funny. I called Arthur.
Yeah, busy list coming up.
Yeah, I called Arthur and I said, "Arthur, who's on whose show tonight?" And he goes, "Mel, it's Wednesday." Was the day.
Yeah.
Everybody, please have a happy holiday.
Yes.
Safe holiday. Stay well. And I think the true meaning of Easter and all the holidays is about spreading love and kindness. So do a kind act. Try to do a kind act every day. It's
I love that.
feel better. Anyway, all right, Kevin, I'm rambling, so
You're good.
thanks.
And I like that you're doing other shows too that aren't politics, because I think we get so pulled into what's going on, and it's important. But also, I think focusing on other things that can benefit us and be for our greatest good too. With that Reiki, all that kind of stuff is good distraction from everything else
We
going
can
on.
still be loving and have our warrior spirit and speak up
Yeah,
against injustice. Um, you know, it is a nice change, but doing the stuff that we do about world events and politics and things like that,
it's important.
it helps to ease people's minds, and that's what our work is all about: is to spread caring and to help ease people's minds through hard times. So
Yeah,
it's a,
absolutely.
it's a
That's
whole
what we do it for.
it's a combination of everything. So
Hmm.
all right, my friend, I'll see you next week. Stay well.
Yeah.
uh,
Take care, everyone.
Hi, Canada.